Hey, let's talk about Taylor Hall and the Edmonton Oilers. This is not necessarily coming out of super thin air, but I will say that I don't necessarily know if I see things actually going this route. However, the videos about Taylor Hall and the trade rumors and the potential destinations, they've all gotten a lot of attention and it sparks a lot of discussion in the comments, and I think people are really intrigued as to what these different directions and overall paths lead to in a discussion point of view. So let's talk a little bit about the big one that I actually hadn't brought up all too often and I didn't really go in depth with. Taylor Hall going back to Edmonton. Now, if Taylor Hall goes back over to the Edmonton Oilers, all three of their first overall picks will be reunited. And that's not even including Nail Yakupov. I'm talking about Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Taylor Hall. Now, out of those three, McDavid is probably the best, right? I think we can all agree on that. He's arguably the best player in the league. I personally believe that he is. Taylor Hall is doing better than Ryan Nugent Hopkins this season, and Taylor Hall, as of right now, is sitting at a pretty comfortable 21 points in 24 games on a somewhat struggling New Jersey Devils team. Taylor Hall is 28 years old, he's making $6 million, and his contract is up at the end of the year, meaning that he will either get a really beefy contract extension with the team that he ends the season with, or he goes to unrestricted free agency and he gets signed to an even bigger, beefier deal with another team. Which is why the trade rumors are bringing themselves up. Does Taylor Hall want to stay in New Jersey? Would he be interested in staying with a team that is currently second last in the East? And in a scenario where the guy has the ability to probably make upwards of $10+ million on his next contract, is he really going to want to spend the next few years, the end of his career pretty much, on a Devils team that has some really nice young pieces but isn't really doing too hot right now? That's why the trade rumors are in place, and other teams have been thrown around in the discussion. Montreal, Colorado, other teams like that have been thrown into the mix of a potential Taylor Hall suitor. However, the one that has been brought up quite a bit, and the one that I actually have been kind of ignoring a little bit, is the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers right now are not in the same position that the New Jersey Devils are. The Oilers are first in the Pacific, and in terms of the West overall, the Oilers are second just behind the St. Louis Blues by only 1 point. The Oilers have been finding ways to win games, and it's been really good for them. However, more scoring is honestly something that they could use. And that's weird to say because the team is really, really productive. They're the best goal-scoring team in the entire Western Conference, and I'm sitting here saying that they still need to get more goals. Well, why is that? Let's take a look at who they're getting points from, and we'll answer that question right away. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are number 1 and number 2 on the Edmonton Oilers in scoring. They're number 1 and number 2 in the league in terms of scoring, with 48 and 47 points in 27 games played. We're a third of the season through, and Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are on pace for about 140-ish points. No big deal from them there. However, the scoring drops off after that. Zach Kassian is at 18 points. Clefbaum is at 18 points. James Neal is at 17 points. Neal is on a weird record right now. He's got 14 goals and only 3 assists. If he keeps up this pace, he'll finish off the year with about 44 goals and 9 assists, which is not amazing, but at the same time, it is kind of amazing how you can score so many goals and not get on the assist column whatsoever. But he's on pace for that. And Taylor Hall right now, if he gets added to the Edmonton Oilers, he's already their third best point producer. And he's already a piece that can really contribute offensively and allow for more secondary scoring to occur on the Edmonton Oilers. Now, whether or not Taylor Hall would want to stay in Edmonton is one thing, but right now, finishing off the season in a trade deadline scenario, Taylor Hall going over to the Oilers would be a really big help. And if the Oilers wanted to make some damage in the playoffs, sure, they would be able to rely on Draisaitl and McDavid because the guys stay healthy and they're really freaking good. But having a Taylor Hall just contributes to that even more, and it helps them out. You can say what you want about the Oilers, not having a goalie or not having the defense. But I'll tell you what, though, Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith have split the starts. They're at an average 916 save percentage, and their goals against average combined is 2.6, which is not bad. I don't think that's all too terrible, especially considering the amount of saves that both of these goaltenders have been making. The Oilers on paper are not all too bad, and they're not getting the secondary scoring, which is not great either, but Taylor Hall getting added to this team would actually provide a lot of depth throughout the lineup going forward. Zach Kassian has been effective this year. James Neal has been really effective this year. Imagine having a first line of Draisaitl, McDavid, and Taylor Hall. If you stack things up like that, you got some pretty good magic going on your team. Taylor Hall provides a sense of maturity amongst a lineup that is generally a little bit on the younger side of things. And he'll be 28 years old coming onto this Edmonton Oilers team, assuming he gets traded over there around the trade deadline or so. Taylor Hall is a guy that honestly could do some pretty good things along those two offensively minded phenoms. Now, when you talk about a trade-like scenario, you have to ask yourself, what is the potential return here? And this is kind of where things get a little bit on the younger side, because the Edmonton Oilers have a pretty okay prospect pool. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but I will say that they do have some talent that a lot of people would dub as possibly elite talent. Your defense is pretty stacked with guys like Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard. Your offense is pretty okay too. Kailer Yamamoto is a guy that I have so much faith in, and Raphael Lavoie is a player that could step into the NHL sooner rather than later. And if the Oilers don't want to mess up with their current lineup, and they don't want to get rid of any roster players, the prospect route is going to be the way they're going to go. And if I'm the New Jersey Devils, I'm going to be honest, I'm asking for Evan Bouchard. I think Evan Bouchard and his potential on the right side could really complement a left-handed Ty Smith going down as a number one pairing into the future. As of right now, you could debate whether or not 1 year of Taylor Hall is worth an Evan Bouchard, or if a conditional first-round pick is going to have to get thrown in too, or whatever. But the fact of the matter is here, Taylor Hall is a really good player, and even though he is only there for 1 year, the fact is he's guaranteed to be good for your team. He's a Hart winner, ladies and gentlemen. He's a 90-point producer, ladies and gentlemen. He's a player who isn't necessarily at that same 100-point potential as he was previously, but I think he could honestly get there once in a while if things go right, and if he stays healthy, of course. Maybe you could say that Evan Bouchard and the potential he has is a little bit too much for only 1 year of Taylor Hall. Okay, that's cool, but then what? Do you go with a little bit of a lesser tier prospect, like an aforementioned Raphael Lavoie, or you go for the picks route, seconds, thirds, and firsts? Whatever goes on is going to go on, but I think the New Jersey Devils are going to be looking for a little bit of a piece towards in the future. Because Taylor Hall, if they're not going to be able to get a solidified roster forward now, they're going to have to look towards the next few years. They've already got a few first overall picks recently, and those are working out somewhat pretty well. But those guys are going to be better down the line. And if they want to be competitive now, the best option for the Devils would be to keep Taylor Hall. But then again, there is no guarantee that they're going to be able to re-sign him, so what's the point in that philosophy? If the Devils really wanted to get value out of Taylor Hall in his expiring contract, they're going to have to get either a prospect in the future or somebody now. But there's no reason for a team trading for Taylor Hall to get rid of somebody now in a Taylor Hall trade. They would be adding Taylor Hall in order to go far in the playoffs. And if they wanted to do that, they would not be messing with their roster in any shape or form because they want to have the best roster available. That's why it's a little bit of a crossroads. And that's why there are many options that people are discussing when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers and Taylor Hall. Trust me, it's been brought up in several Sportsnet articles, and YouTube videos have been made. I know Hands Down Hockey, Justin the Man 87, had some really good things to say about this specific topic on his channel. But I wanted to throw my little stab at it too, give a little A2 Brute on this Taylor Hall to Edmonton thing, because I think it's one of the more intriguing discussions to have, and I think it's one of the more hugely debatable ideas that has presented itself amongst the hockey media. But overall, that's my little thoughts on it. A prospect's going to have to go back the other way. I think Evan Bouchard would look great with Ty Smith down the line, and he's a guy that I would honestly like to see. But I hope you enjoyed this video, Social Trolls 99, and bye.